So hello everyone, welcome to a YouTube video. Yep, it's me. It's actually quite late at night. I'm doing an awful lot of kind of burning the candle at both ends at the moment. Those of you who know, looking after my dad at the moment, and also trying to juggle some projects and trying to squeeze some of your training requirements in. Some of you have got some urgent requirements that I'm trying to accommodate for you. Anyway, this week want to have another look at some stuff that we've put into the IPS Toolkit. If you didn't see the announcement on LinkedIn, if you're not following me on LinkedIn, you can connect with me on that platform. I announced last week or mid-week, the week before, the IPS Desk Officer, and I'm going to do something on the Desk Officer later on over the next week or so, to tell you kind of where the IPS Desk Officer is, what it is, why it does it, and why it does things in a certain way. Now, I have been kind of I've been mulling over this. How do we start putting some of this more in the easy box for people that maybe are not using some of these specifications all day, every day, and they might be juggling several different tasks, several different jobs that they are doing. How do we, put intelligence into tools like the IPS Toolkit? And today I'm going to show you how some of that works. Again, I'm going to go and I'll show you as opposed to just talk to you about it. And if you want more information, we'll talk about that later on in the course. So I will have to blur some of this stuff out because some of it is secret source stuff. But also thank you to everybody who's been in touch. I've been contacted by 3 different vendors who want to know how they could use this in conjunction with their tools, and I've got a conversation going with a style sheet developer at the moment who's offered very kindly to put his style sheets inside the IPS Toolkit, and we can then bundle it with the free version, and then we go to the commercial version. You would speak to him about buying the style sheets from him. Anyway, so I'm going to go into my screen and we'll talk about what's going on. So again, sorry, I've had to blur some of this out just for obvious, and I will be focusing today in the S1000D side of stuff. So I've got the S1000D tools down here, and but before I move into there, I want to talk about a setting that I have in the tool, which is something called the package manager. And the package manager is all about how I can get S1000D configurations into this tool without constantly having to have customers upgrading software. Okay, so if a version of a specification changes, you don't want to have to keep changing software, updating software, because it's just hard to get IT to do things really, really quickly. So I have something called a utilities tool here. I'll just jump out of this one because I've just been doing some work. This is a utilities tool that allows me to create encrypted outputs for the IPS Toolkit. And you can see I manage everything in here, from the different issues of S1000D to the different schemas, the information codes, SNS groups, and things like BRDPs. How do I work with the business rules decision points? I can then map and which ones are coming from which issue, etc. You see I'm getting ready for issue 7 already. And how do we work with BRDPs? Things like, I'm not going to go through some of these. I can do BRDP compare. So I can, if I'm upgrading one issue of S1000D to another, and I'm in a project that may be at issue 4.1, I can say, show me all of the changes in all of the specification. I have business rules decision points to categories. These are all drag and droppable, so you can see I've been playing with these and moving things around and dragging where they need to be. But if I go into something like issue 6, for example, you can see I can overlay the groups as well that are available to us, and that affords me the ability to add some functionality inside the IPS Toolkit, and that is I can give you a package, and that package is encrypted, and only the IPS Toolkit can read it, which means if a new change or a new version of the specifications come out and business rules, I'm going to show you that in a moment, is I can just send you an update package and you can just include it, upload it, and your project will automatically pick up all of those new definitions or new changes inside S1000D and or any of the other specifications without having to upgrade software or change software. So it just makes life a little bit easier for you. It makes life a little bit easier for your IT department. So now let's move into some of these. We'll go through some of these over the coming weeks. Don't worry about this is me playing down here. You already know spec view. And, you know, I don't think I've shown this one yet, but we're going to focus on project configuration. So here you can see that I've got some tools, configure a project, which is what we're going to look at today, scope and pricing, build SNS, and applicability studio. So building an SNS essentially is helping us get across from the old IPS toolkit, and then how do we build a DMRL from that. But if we look at something like configure a project, so here you can see I've got 4, 4.2, 5 and 6. I think I've mentioned already I've had several requests for older versions of S1000D, and including I've had 1.8 request. If you are supporting older versions of S1000D, put a comment down below, let me know what they are, and I'll let you know if I can put them inside the tool as well. But here you can see I haven't uploaded up here in my package manager my 4.1, but what I have done is I've imported some items from the package manager, so I can decide what I export from my utilities and what I can give to the IPS toolkit. Again, that's uploaded up here, and you can see that it's telling me that it's found all of this information for that particular issue of S1000D. I'm going to show you these two projects. Those of you who are familiar with my training will be ultimately familiar with these training data sets that I've created. But we're coming in at this project at the project level now, at the definition level, which is what a lot of our CSDBs assume that we have already done before we get to the CSDB. So if I click on the break assembly here, those of you who are familiar, you will know that we define a training need for this. We do some MTA on this, we do some documentation analysis on this, and then we bring it all together in a fully unified IPS project. So what's going on here? Well, so not only are we able to, load some images, etc., to show or give a visual what this project is, I have something called Workspace. Now, Workspace in this project, in this instance, is now disabled, and it's disabled because we've already started defining our project, which means I cannot go back and break anything. I can't go and upset the configuration that we've already started here. So in that utility, in the package manager, that's what's being dragged into here. So all of the default S1000D settings, all of the definitions, etc. from S1000D are appearing here. So there's your groups, etc. I have in my development tool, I've included an option here, which is force issue 6 groups, and it will overlay groups on here, and then it will show you any business rules decisions that do not exist or do not belong in groups. So, and there's a reason why we would do that. So here you can see that I can textually search. So if I know that STE is in here somewhere, so let's go for use of STE. We can say we're not going to use it just because I know that'll upset Kieran and I know that'll upset Berry. But we're going to say that we're not using, at the risk of upsetting, let's move it into we are going to use it in our project, and now we have the ability to, yes, we will and you can see that now we can start documenting what we are going to do in terms of simplified technical English here. And we can do that for all of these here, but here you can see that we can have a fully defined rule if we want to have a fully defined rule, and now that lives with that BRDP. This is actually a read-only view now, but if I go to schemas, you can see that it's asking me which schemas I want to use, and I can define which schemas I'm going to use. And but why? How can we make that even easier for project managers or program managers? I'm going to teach you very, very shortly. Things like optional elements, information codes. Here you can see that we have some information codes in here. So now you can see that we are in the process of defining. If we wanted to use custom BRDP numbering, we can do that. I could change this to my cage code if I wanted to, and it will change all of the BRDPs here to my cage code. I'm going to go back and change that back because I can. And but it maintains a link from this back to the original S1000D one. So we have that, if you like, the digital link between our project one and the S1000D definitions as well. So I can move items into review, and I can then add them into it's now been locked, so therefore we can go and capture comments on these items as well. So now, because I have moved things here, green, orange and green again, this is now we are in the project. So now we can enable items where we can start creating our particular, if you like, the items that we need to start capturing our rules against. So here we can start looking at some of the schemas. Again, these are only selectable if the BRDP has been activated in the schemas. So if we have them activated, so if that was not here, for example, I would not be able to start working on schemas. Same with information codes. If the information code BRDP wasn't here, I wouldn't be able to go through the information code. So if I don't know, look for something like remove, you can see here that now I know that I'm going to be doing a de-icing kind of, I've got a funny story about de-icing, but a remove procedure we might do, and maybe we'll have a remove material. Now if I go back to my BRDPs on information codes, you can see that they have now been added in here to say that this decision has been updated to include those particular information codes here for me, and I can clear that, and we have the whole gambit of information codes in here. We can filter on category if we want to of them, but I just don't think there's any need if we are going to work in that particular way. I think for me that makes just a little bit more sense. Same with SNSs. Here you can see we have defined our SNSs. Did I show you SNSs over here? So let me see if I can find it quickly. Product SNSs. Here you can see I can decide which SNSs I'm activating. I can include a custom one, so I can go and build my own SNS if I wanted to. And why is that important? Well, those of us who are working in the wider S series know why that's important, that we get this right. So I can select and I can say, okay, in the fuel system, I'm going to add the fuel system, but we don't need in-flight refueling, and we don't need this one, and we don't need fuel dumping. And now those have been added to my SNS inside my BRDPs. And I can just filter purely on project selection if that's what I want. I can filter on a database view. So if I want to have it on a database view, or my particular favorite is more of a map view here, so I can see the map, I can click on, you know, the attack system, or I can go to my cabin system and isolate. Now, I can right click on here and I can go into isolation mode, which means I drill down into this particular area of the SNS and I can focus on that if I wanted to. Again, and now, you know, how do I work with things like customizable attributes? So I can look at things like quantity type, and I could say that we don't need that. So now that's no longer available to me. But things like the obvious ones, which are things like skill type and or skill code, we can disable S1000D default or S1000D defined, because they might not be appropriate to our project, which means now that we wouldn't get to use that. And I can go and add my own particular item if I wanted to. So you can see it picks up the next code that we're supposed to be able to use, again following S1000D conventions, and I can add those in here, and I can add notes in here. You can see I was showing this to a customer earlier. I can add my own notes in here that then are stored with my business rules. So you can see it's all about context, contextualization of, we make a decision here, it means that it enables decisions that we can make over here. We prevent things happening that shouldn't be happening. So now we can try and speed up how we define a project, how we document that project. And then I can pass this off to the IPS desk officer. I can pass this off to a CSDB vendor. I can pass this off to a business rules development manager. I can do a whole raft of things with this in a much quicker way on how we want to be able to do that. Now, I mentioned some other things. Let me just finish off this little bit for you, and then we have notes and actions are notes and actions. I don't need to talk you through that. But here you can see that now I can export a printed business rules document and say, here's all our business rules. I can create a HTML5 package. I'm going to do another video on that, why we would do that. I could create an S1000D BR doc, and or I can import, export, exchange packages. So therefore, if you're working in a collaborative way, one of you might be working on some business rules decision points, and some of you might be working on others. You can exchange packages between each other. So, but what was the item I wanted to show you here was that this is a brand new empty project. Okay, the only thing I've done is uploaded a picture of my my motorcycle here, and you know, those of you who've done my training, you know that we do a little bit using this. But now we have different entry points, and so let me show you some of the entry points here. If I'm more of an advanced user, I could just create a blank project and I could do everything that then I can say, right, we're not using this, we are using this, we're not using this, etc., etc. But I'm going to reset that because I need to show you the other pathways. And now you can see that I can come in from there. I can use a TDW wizard, and that wizard will ask me a series of questions, and then it will suggest a baseline S1000D project to start with. So it will ask you what kind of systems you're working on. It will ask you the type of data you want to produce. Are you working with applicability, etc., etc., and the types of documents that you want to produce, and it will automatically populate a lot of this for you. So it's a baseline start, so you can go and get going. I can, if I'm sent an S1000D project, I can point at a directory and it will extract from the XML and backfill, reverse engineer into my BRDPs. So codification strategy, types of schemas that we're using, what's our information code strategy, etc., will all be backfilled. And a little bit of logic in the background will produce and move all of those BRDPs into the right place for me, and then I can go in and edit them, tidy them up, and do all of those kind of things. The one that I think is a little bit more interesting is that I can start from a known set of business rules, because inside here I can give, or I can issue our package, which will come pre-configured. In this case, I've got DefStan 00601 for land, sea and air. And you have to acknowledge that this is not a replacement for owning these specifications or having these specifications. You acknowledge that, and we can say, right, we're working on a 4.1 or 4.2 land, sea, air project, whichever one it might be. And I know the UK MOD's preferred is 4.1, but we can then from here automatically populate all of the BRDPs that will then come across into configuring our project. So that's what I wanted to show you this week, that how do we make these specifications that are sophisticated. There are lots of joined up decisions. There are lots of connected decisions that we have to make. And how can we make tools that make adoption of things like S1000D, or I've not shown you any of the 6000T stuff, etc. On this particular one. I will do. I'll show you. I've got nothing particularly to hide. You know, I know that there's a lot of energy and effort went into this, and a lot of thought went into this. So the idea here is that you can go and define your S1000D project before we get to working with the big CSDBs out there, the Raytheons, the RWSs, the GPSLs, the fill in the blank, whichever is your CSDB of choice. So now we can set up the project, we can get it all configured in our CSDB in a meaningful way. We have future-proof, we have audit trail, we have manageable software tools. That means that we're not, you know, how do we, those of us who've done my training, you know, we talk about the investment curve, the energy curve with S1000D and or any of these specifications. How do we bring that friction down so that we make the adoption a little bit easier and a little bit more graphical? So that's what I wanted to show you. Where am I in terms of being able to deploy? So Microsoft have informed me only today that they are now at the verifying who TDW is. So I've provided all the documents, I provided all of our DUNS numbers and all that kind of stuff, so they can go and check that we are real. They're now going off and doing some whatever financial validations, etc., that they have to do to make sure that we are a good, strong company. Then I'll have a certificate, which means I can start creating exes, which means I can start distributing the tool. And not sure how long that will be. The Apple side of things, easy. I'm already a registered Apple developer. I just need to renew my license. So that side of stuff is interesting. Let me know in the comments down below, thumbs up. Those of you who are contacting me on LinkedIn, etc., thank you very much. I know several of you have asked me for a presentation or a demonstration of this tool on how it works. Yeah, it should be ready very shortly. The hold up is signing certificates. I can't just send out installers because your IT department would have a complete meltdown. Anyway, if there's a tool you think you'd be interested in, head to our website, s1000dworld.com or techdataworld.com, fill out the contact us form, use Gmail and I'll just ignore it. But if you are genuinely interested in this tool and how you think it might be able to help you, feel free to get in touch. Next week, I think we'll have a look at, let me just go to my home page. I could show you a little bit of the PLM Lite, I guess, next week, where we can take data from Teamcenter and then we can create an IPS project off that. So you can see, no, I'm not going to show you now because that's spoiler alert. But the I think maybe I'll do something on Desk Officer, because the one that's generated quite a lot of discussion is Desk Officer. And so how do we bring the procurers of our data closer to the decision process? Anyway, there you go. Hope you found that useful and interesting. Again, hit me up on LinkedIn, comment down below, etc. Let me know if it sounds interesting to you. I'm going now. Ta-da now. See you soon. Bye-bye.